ನರೇನ್ ಕಿನಿ ಅವರೇ, ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ Daaji ಅವರಿಗೆ. I welcome you to akka platform on behalf of akka board and akka members. And also I would like to thank Madhav Reddy and Naren Kini and Vasumurthy for giving akka a platform for the meditation. My question for Daaji is this. I have been practicing meditation since the beginning of akka, a meditation program with Naren Kini. I'm not there yet. And I was told, and the thing is, this meditation is about heart and mind, that is brain. And there is an extensive research going on at your center, both medical and scientific research on this meditation facts. Could you please elaborate or tell us what is going on and what are the outcomes of this medical research, Daaji ji?
Dayananji, thank you. Thank you for being with us this evening, and my thanks to Sri Amarnath Ji Gowda as well. Very special thanks to so many of you, including my dear brother Madhava Garu. Scientific research and the spiritual research, I think, they should go hand in hand. But there is a limit also. See, I give you a small example that science is all about repetitive outcome under a certain situation. For example, when we established this rule that water boils at 100-degree temperature, it's a standard rule under standard condition. But it can change also. If you put more salt in water, or if you take it on some heights, the boiling temperature will change. Now, when we try to copy such a scenario of standard experience or standard outcome of any process, for example, you meditate, your spouse meditates, your children meditates, but each one is a different subject. It's like water. Water also is not one entity. When we say water at standard, water with salt, water under low pressure, it changes the property. Likewise, we as human beings are not same. Inside spiritually, at a very inner core is same. But consciousness that is changed, that gives us a personality. And because of this changing personality, not only our spouse is different, not only our children are different, but I am also different at different times, based on my moods, based on my physical status. I keep on responding or reacting to various situations, including my worshipping a deity. For example, when I am in good mood, I come home with so much of joy and I try to meditate on that deity. That evening my experience will be so good. 2 days later, when I hear that there has been some investigation going on behind my back and my wife has been unfaithful, what will happen to your meditation? So we are not the same subjects like fixed entity. Our experiences go on changing based on our interplay of within ourselves. See? Now, when we bring in Lord Krishna's statement that despite of this varying or various situations, his expectations are quite high. He said you should remain sthita pragya, means your wisdom should remain static. Static. Now, is it possible? It is possible only when we reach the highest, the summit of consciousness. Until we reach the summit, we will be different. For example, when we are climbing on a mountain, Everest mountain, and even on the summit, when you have climbed the Everest on the same point, another person cannot stand. I have climbed, my wife is following me, and she is standing somewhere. I am facing east, she is facing west, children are facing north and south. Because on the summit of that consciousness, we have to adopt different positions. When I'm looking east from the top, my worldview will be different from someone who is looking west or north or south. Though we are on the same pinnacle. Spiritual experiences can be expressed and monitored up to a certain extent in the scientific world. It has a limit. Having crossed that limit, we cannot use any instrumentation in order to measure the spiritual variations or spiritual spectrum, so to say. In the scientific world, there are many gadgets they are now using to monitor the change in consciousness. And science of consciousness is very limited. When we talk of a sage like Vasistha and his preaching via Vasistha Sanhita. Similarly, when we talk of consciousness from Astavakra Gita, or when we talk of consciousness from the dialogues between Lord Rama and Lakshman and Mother Sita. I mean, that was a time we can analyze all this. You see, the Vasistha, Janaka and Astavakra, Lord Rama, Mother Sita and Lakshman. You see, all it's the same time period. So you can somehow safely conclude that the fashion or the talk of the town was consciousness. Today, in the scientific world, also to talk of global talk in scientific world, especially in psychology and all that, is all about consciousness. The difference between then and now, then it was perceived and felt. Now we're trying to judge the things through the instrumentation. As I was saying, instrumentation has its own limits. For example, some of you from medical background would know that when we put EEG probe and try to monitor the sleep studies, dream studies, or any activities that is happening in the brain, they're too superficial. They try to measure the depth of delta waves. They try to measure the frequency of alpha and gamma waves. It's okay. When we meditate, the brain slows down. Nothing big thing about it. No, you don't need the instrument to measure that your brain has slowed down. Slowed down does not mean that your intelligence is going down. No, not that way. You are becoming calmer and calmer. You are able to now move away from this neural firing, neural network firing, to a different dimension altogether. We transcend the thinking process. Now, how are we going to measure this transcendence of the mind? When mind is inactive, kind of, but mind you, I tell you, mind is super active. During Samadhi state, universe is not big enough. When this consciousness expands during the Samadhi, how are we going to measure that infinity in a small gadget? I can only pray. We can all pray together and say, hopefully one day scientists may be successful. God bless them with that so that others can have more confidence in spirituality. If that serves the purpose, wonderful. But I did find something very exciting. For example, certain states in Samadhi up to a certain extent, uh, which our Shastras call it as Turiya state. Turiya state means fourth level of consciousness. We have this waking consciousness where we are interacting with each other. Then as you are trying to go into a sleep mode, we pass through various states like REM or dream state, and then a deep sleep state. So those three states are known to us. Fourth is this Turiya state. Now, what is the difference between deep sleep state and Turiya state? Fourth level of consciousness, which is Samadhi in another word. In sleep state, when we are in deep sleep state, delta wave appears, means the wave frequency is about 3 to 5 hertz per second. Similar thing also happens when a person is in Samadhi. You can see this on the graph here. The bottommost is the delta wave. When the person is in Samadhi, he will also experience this wave pattern, will be able to witness that on the instrument. Only difference is, in deep sleep state, you are not aware at all. In Samadhi, when this delta wave appears, you are fully aware. You are entering into a cosmic consciousness, universal consciousness, where not only you know about what's happening here around us, but at a certain level of consciousness, you can also feel what's happening around the world, the universe. And there is still another level of consciousness, we call it Turiyatit, means going beyond this fourth level of consciousness. Now, fourth level of consciousness is when we close our eyes and with the help of Pranahuti, when we touch that deepest level of consciousness, that is Turiya. But when through practice, we are able to experience this Turiya-like state, even with open eyes during our working hours, so while you are cooking or you are eating or partaking with various activities, and still you are able to maintain that level of consciousness, that door will bang. It's very windy right now. We're soon going to get rain, it looks like. So it's very auspicious moment here. Very hot in Hyderabad, but I think few showers will do some good to us. Thank you.
Yes.
And
yes.
sorry for this interruption, but science is also finding out all this through instruments, which is encouraging. But my fear, my apprehension is only this much, that there are not many things that we can measure. Are we able to measure the speed and position of electrons? We're not. No, people laugh when we talk of this wave thing and particle thing, all those things. We are not able to detect all those things. We don't even know for sure what is the nature of this electron. Is it particle? Is it wave? So we keep on struggling with limited thing, which is even things like electron, proton, neutron, and who knows what tachyon particles also. Those are imagery. All these things are imagery. If we are limited with such limited aspects of atoms, can we imagine the limitless, which is smaller than the smallest and bigger than the biggest, as our Upanishad speaks about? So there are limitations, but with advancement in the, especially this neurophysiological sciences, neurology, I think we are able to see, we are able to witness beautiful effects of just closing your eyes and meditating with love. And I specifically use this word, meditating with love. We call it as bhakti, right? Meditating with so much of bhakti in our heart for the Lord. But you meditate without bhakti and meditate with bhakti, that also makes a world of a difference. Anyway, it's a long subject altogether. So let's go on to another practical question.
Thank you, Sahib. Thank you for the answer. And we have Mr. Dhananjaya Kengaya. He's the Vice President of Akka and he's from the Bay Area, San Jose. He has introduced himself to philosophy, meditation, spirituality since his high school days, apparently, and now believes every step of his life he will live in the moment. Dhananjaya ji, please go ahead and ask your question.
Hello, Pranam, Daaji, Guruji. Thank you, Naren Kiniji. So, my question is, Guruji, we talk about karma, that whatever, and again, when we talk about conscious, subconsciousness, memory, karma, and then eventually we try to cleanse that karma, and people talk about cleansing of this karma, and I would like to know, and also is how to, and we talk about what would be the benefits of cleansing of that karma, and also we talk about moksha. I mean, eventually everybody tries to live happily and attain that moksha. So are all these related? And what, again, eventually, what are the benefits of this karma cleansing and attaining that moksha? I don't know. I just hear about moksha and I'm trying to find an answer about what you get. What is the goal of that, attaining that moksha, karma cleansing, and such things, Guruji?
Dhananjay, I'm very happy to hear such questions actually, which are very rare. There are levels and levels of spiritual growth. Primary one, minimum one should try to attain is mukti. What in English we call it as salvation. Next higher state is liberation, which we call it as moksha in Sanskrit. So there is mukti, there is moksha. And further up, we call it merger. We become one with the maker. Now we'll talk these three subjects which are very distinct. But before that, we need to understand what keeps us in a state of non-salvation or not liberation. People have understood liberation as that no more life and death. But what is wrong? If I may ask you, what is wrong with your life that you don't want to come back? If I have everything I need in my life, food, clothing, good family, and if I can serve those who are in need, I'm doing a noble task. So liberation to me is arriving at a freedom. If I like to come back, I should be able to come back. If I don't want to come back, that is also a kind of a freedom that you have. Absolute freedom. That does not mean no life, no death. No, that is wrong, that you will not be born again. That's a very limited view of it. Salvation is a much lower state where you attain some level of mukti. It's like you are in a jail and they release you on parole for some time and you're back to jail again. See? That parole period is salvation. It's temporary freedom. You are given a break for some time. And depending on what you do during this break, if you end up doing some good things during that break time, that salvation can also become liberation in the future. But that cannot happen unless and until I do something in the now. See? I cannot remain bogged down with my past and so I made this mistake. Of course, everybody makes mistakes. But I cannot keep on worrying about that. Oh, I did this, I did this. I cannot be imprisoned in my past and I cannot become a fanatic or I cannot become so anxious about my future. So the anxiousness of the future and imprisoning feeling arising out of my past can never help us attain liberation. We're too busy with the other time zones. Actual liberation comes when you are absolutely free from any sort of conditioning. Today I was watching Merlin. I mean, you might laugh at me when I say I was watching Merlin, because it's all about magic and miracles and things like that. There's a miracle potion to drink and how you change persons from animal to some angels and some human beings to dogs and cats they make anyway, and they move things. Today's episode I saw one witch. She gives a potion to the king Uthar. He drinks it and he is absolutely gaga over her. Even when he sees her in her troll form, which is so ugly because she eats horse dung and she eats worms and she farts 10 times in a minute. I mean, he had to sleep with like that when she cast a spell like that on him. How his consciousness was changed because of this casting of the spell. Now in other scenarios, somebody else casted a spell. In our case, what happens? You recall your days, Dhananjay, when you were in 8th grade or 9th grade, when a girl winked at you. Do you remember? We all faced that. Did you sleep well for 10 days or 15 days? Just a wink of a beautiful girl. Even today, till your last moment in death, you'll remember her. It's that powerful. You may act, you may not act, but it has such an impact on your mind, on your emotions. So I give you the extreme example, but many smaller things also happens in our day-to-day life. I used to work in New York City. I used to take a train from New Jersey, come to Manhattan, take a 42nd Street, go to Times Square station, take another train to go to Bronx to work in a pharmacy. Now, when I had to walk on 42nd Street those days in 80s and 90s, can you remain unaffected on those streets at an emotional or a mental level?
Yeah.
It's difficult. It's very, very difficult to protect yourself from sattvikta and not get affected with the rajasic and tamasic vibrations that we all experience. Whether you participate with those activities or not, but your attention is drawn for a moment. It's like you're walking into a coal mine with a beautiful white shirt. Even though you may not harvest any coal, yet the nature of the coal mine is that you'll have some specks of coal dust on your shirt. It will get spoiled. Just being there. Consciously or unconsciously, you are quietly sitting in your office, doing nothing whatsoever. Somebody cries and you hear it. Oh, one of the employees crying, or you're watching a TV and there is an ad, very provocative ad. What happens to you? You are not participating in that act, but that provocating ad captures your mind. Someone is crying in the background, it draws your attention. And when you try to meditate in the evening, what happens at that time then? All these things, if you are very conscious of all these things, it will come like a movie reel, unwinding in your mind. Right? But we don't have to worry about it. See, through this heartfulness way, we have many methods, many ways of getting rid of all these impressions that we gather knowingly or unknowingly. And we call it as antakaran suddhi. And this antakaran suddhi, it happens through a sankalpa, And this sankalpa is a yogic sankalpa. In order to make it active, we get a training from a preceptor, and preceptors are all over the globe. And even if you don't have someone in your own town, you can use an app, somebody nearby or somebody who's available at that time will call you back and say, oh, and they'll walk you through this whole process of meditating, and will also enable to do this antahkaran suddhi. It's a very simple process, and it is possible to get rid of the impressions that we gather during daytime. So, but what about the impressions that we have had during the lifetime, which I get collected in my 9th grade or in my 5th grade or when I was 5-year-old? All these, we are baggage of these impressions. In our Hindu culture, we used to call it sanskars. Sanskars are the products of influences. Good sanskars, bad sanskars. Good parents, good sanskars. Bad parents, bad sanskars. Bad friendship, bad sanskars. So, and we are complex being carrying these fossils of impressions in our consciousness. Swami Vivekananda used to call these as cognates. You can refer to. These cognates, if they are absent, you will not find any reference point in your memory. For example, if I show you a gadget and which you have never seen before, then you say, look, it's not present in my cognitive memory. Otherwise, you will recognize it, that it's there in my. So all the past impression makes us identify things, makes us react to things. It is good as well as bad. Let's see, if I had cigarette smoking habit and then I realized it was not good and I became sick out of it. My reaction to it, see whether I get addicted and get hooked on it, or when I realize, become wiser and say, no, it's not good for me. What do we learn from such impressions? Either you can go on and on and on, have cancer and still smoke. As a pharmacist, I can tell you, people used to come for asthma pumps and those inhalation medications and all kinds of stuff. At the same time, they'll buy a carton of cigarettes. What do you learn from the impressions that we have? Certain impressions should have made us wiser, but we don't become wiser. One girl ditched me, one girl cheated me, one girl or one man cheated me. Do we learn anything out of that? We don't. Some people do, most don't. Anyway, so these samskars are supposed to create some sort of a Lakshmana rekhas in our lives. And within that frame, when we draw these Lakshman rekhas individually around our life, around our family, we are able to lead a happy and spiritual or sattvic life. You see, imagine a family where husband, wife, grandfather, grandmother, and children, all 3 generations are meditating at the same time. Go out to the world, come back in the evening, again you meditate together. Before you go to sleep, again you offer prayer for just 2 minutes together. What can really happen to such a family? The whole vibrations will change in a family. What wrong can descend on such family? I don't think so. And even if it does come, the wrong things or the miseries, it has a purpose. And you will learn something, a biggest thing in life. And we all have seen that miseries and troubles have taught us something more than the luxuries of life. That does not mean that we want to invite misery. Whenever it comes, accept it and see what you can learn out of it. See? And we have many programs at Heartfulness, corporate programs, individual programs. And all these individuals practices especially, unlike many yoga gurus who have become yogis, you will not be charged here. There are no, suppose if I had to teach you meditation or that there are trainers worldwide, they spend hours together for you every week. Will they charge? No, they will not charge you anything for any practice that we offer, be it meditation or be it a very specific Antakaran Suddhi, nothing. Because my Guruji used to say that Brahma Vidya, this yogic knowledge, has to be shared freely. You cannot put a price tag on it. कि ये क्रिया करोगे तो $100, ये क्रिया करोगे तो $200. Nothing of that. Third level, $5,000. You want to sit with the Guruji, $1 million. Run away from such Gurujis. My Babuji Maharaj, my Guruji used to say that if, when someone was offering, when he came to DC and gave $50, and Babuji says, what is this? He had not even seen $50 in 70s, you could not even take out more than $20 out of India those days. And someone gives $50, he had not. What paper is he giving me? He said, Babuji, this is $50 and it is worth so much in rupees. He says, why is he giving it to me? He says, he's giving you Guru Dakshina. He said, return it now. It's Mahapapam. Gurus should never take money from Sishyas. And that too in advance. Guru Dakshina is given only at the end, not with money, but with life. Money is too cheap a proposal. With life, then it's worthwhile because you have achieved something where your soul, it ascends into something very joyful. Let me recollect the words he had used to that boy, American boy. He says, boy, God is not for sale. When he gave that $50 bill, Babuji said to him, God is not for sale. And if God was for sale, how much would you pay? And if you could pay, why do you need God? So that was a checkmate. So why I'm sharing this with you? Akka ho ya tana ho ya, what else is there? Atta, then this api also, mahapapi log hai wo. Sorry, doctors log. They think they can bribe heaven by giving money, $1 million donation to this sanstha, $2 million to that sanstha. One who is a sannyasi, $1 million ke kya karega tumhara paisa? You better give it to your villages. Give it to your neighbors who are still hungry. Give it to their children who need education. Don't wait for them to ask you for money. All these gurus that we see all around India, they're loaded and flouting with money. They are roaming around, with the Shishya's money, Audi 6 and Audi 10, God knows what else they have. And if you, as Akka people or Tana people, keep on fueling such people, you are also participant of that sinful act. Would God forgive you for wrongdoings? You are giving it to such people, not out of love, but out of greed. That if I give to such and such a guru, I will get the first ticket in heaven. Uske आशीर्वाद से मेरा मोक्ष हो जाएगा, कुछ होने वाला नहीं है, उसका होएगा, तेरा नहीं होएगा। उसका क्यों होगा? यहाँ तो उसको शांति ही है, बाद में मरेने के बाद जो होएगा सो होएगा। But sure, I must tell you, for everything we pay a price. If we do a good thing with good intentions, it will happen. No guru can give us moksha. Remember this. It's only my penance, my tapas, my practice, my sadhana will facilitate that. Guru can guide me, do this, do that. And if there are obstacles, he'll remove the obstacles without saying that I have removed the obstacle from your spiritual path. And what are these obstacles on a spiritual path? My impressions, my samskaras. You see, as long as I have samskaras, I am sure to be born again. Because samskaras are like seeds, bij. If I have bad samskars, based on those bad samskars, I will have parents matching those samskars. When I have good samskars, I will have parentage and the environment matching those samskars. Now, purpose of moksha is what? Absolute freedom, no? That means I should not have any good or bad samskars. Because as long as good samskars are there, I have to be born because of samskars. So, does that mean that I should stop doing good things? No. Lord Krishna says, do whatsoever you like to do, but surrender the results to me. And when you do surrender the result, the consequences of action, you are not culpable, let's say. You will not form the impressions thereof. That's why these beautiful examples of lotus staying in a dirty pond, not being affected by the dirty surrounding. You may walk on 42nd Street without fear. You can enter the coal mine, the most beautiful white shirt. No coal mine dust will gather on you because you have covered yourself in the remembrance of the Lord. It's only when we'll miss out the remembrance of the Lord that you become vulnerable. The kavacha bolte na, kavach. When Karna's kavach was lost, rather he gave it away as a donation, low. When he didn't have that kavach, he was finished. What is our kavach? Our security is the remembrance of the Lord with love, not with fear. How many of you, I would say, who does this diya and agarbatti and bow your head before you go to work or when you come back from work? Many of us. And the day you don't do, what happens to you in the car? Maybe something wrong might happen today to me.
Karma will eat you.
And then you make a U-turn of your car again. Bhagavan, 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 Hari Om, Hari Om. And then you do the agarbatti and then run from the house. God doesn't need such services. Close your eyes wherever you are. Get in touch with that essence, divine essence. Gita again says, when Arjun, his best friend, asks him a question, that my dear friend, now you're my Param, you are my Deva, my God. I didn't know you as that. But thanks to your grace that I'm able to witness the Vishwaroop of my friend. But what about the people who will come after us? How will they attain darshan of the Lord? Lord Krishna puts it very simply, Hridayam pashyasi, look myself in your heart. That is the prescription. लेकिन हम कहाँ ढूंढते हैं उनको? बीबी घर में है, मॉल में जाके देखना है उसको, दूसरी बीबी मिलेगी तो, अपनी नहीं मिलेगी। बाहर जाने से आप जरा सोचिए, दूसरा एग्जांपल देता हूं, जो हमें जीवन देता है वो हमारे बाहर तो नहीं है ना, बेंगलोर में है, आप हो रहते हो मिशिगन में शायद, आपका आत्मा कहाँ है? आपको जो लाइफ देता है वो कहाँ है? आपके अंदर ही है ना। तिरुपति में है, द्वारका में है, कोई पेड़ पे है? नहीं। जब से मैंने जन्म लिया उसके पहले से भी वो है, मरने के बाद भी वो ही रहेगा, लेकिन जब तक ये शरीर है वो हमारे अंदर ही रहेगा। He settles on आत्म चक्र। योग वशिष्ठा पढ़िए आप, वशिष्ठा, योग वशिष्ठा। आत्म चक्र किसको कहते हैं? हृदय चक्र किसको कहते हैं? ये चक्र के फंक्शन क्या है? मेरा कहने का मतलब है कि हमें कहीं भी बाहर ढूंढने की जरूरत नहीं है। जब से बच्चा पैदा होता है, there are more than 50% are mothers here, and most of you as adults must have also seen perhaps when the child is born or when it's just about to be born, mother is crying with a lot of pain at that time, severe pain. For her, only joy is when child is separated from the body. Doctor cuts the umbilical cord, baby starts crying, and mother smiles despite of the pain. If the baby doesn't cry, mother remains anxious. When will my baby cry? Because that cry is a sign of accompanying soul. Doctors would know that if the baby still remains still, doesn't cry, they tilt the baby and tap from the back to stimulate the breathing and stimulate the heart, if at all. And still baby doesn't cry, what happens? They declare it as dead. They say in our shastras that something that should have come along with Antaryamin, Atman, Antaratman, Jiva, सोल कहो या आत्मन को, वो नहीं आया। लेकिन जब से आया है तब से तो साथ में है ना। अमरनाथ जी को बोलो आज रात को, वो बोलेगा कि मैं जाता हूं, अमरनाथ जी बाय बाय, तो क्या होएगा? वो मर जाएगा, हम सब क्रेमेशन के लिए जाएंगे उनके। वो तो बाहर नहीं था, वो अंदर ही है। जब अंदर है तो अंदर ढूंढना है, वो बाहर क्यों ढूंढते हैं? आप हमें बताइए, वेद शास्त्र में कहीं पे भी बाह्य पूजा का महत्व है? कहीं पे भी? कहीं पे भी नहीं है। क्यों? क्योंकि वो सात्विक जमाना ऐसा था कि हर इंसान को, हर आदमी को पता था ईश्वर क्या है, वो महसूस करता था। हर चीज में ईश्वर को महसूस उस जमाने में करते थे वो। आकाश तो ऑल परवेजिव इंफिनिटी है, उनकी पूजा होती थी अंदर से, बाहर से नहीं। पेड़ों में भी they would experience presence of God in trees, in rivers, in mountains. and cows and buffaloes and dogs, you name it, they would experience this divinity even in a stone. We have reversed the whole thing. As the degradation of Hindu society became more and more intense, this separation happened, that we no longer feel the presence. Though we advocate that please try to feel the presence of God in a cow or a buffalo or a tree, and worship a tree or worship this and worship that. Nothing wrong with it, as long as you can experience the essence of that all-pervasiveness in your heart. Once again, the presence, even though it may be outside in everything, yet I'll have to feel the presence in my heart. So why not close your eyes and feel the presence? That's another argument. My final argument of all these images, it's good in the beginning. I don't know what stage are you at, or at what stage your children are. But imagine for a day when you are rubbing your shoulders with Lord Krishna. Maybe you are gopis, maybe you are Das, his playmates in Mathura or Vrindavan. How many understood him? Even when he walked on this planet in his original form as a human being, Avatar Purusha, how many understood him, realized him? Okay. Today, are we seeing that original form? Do you have that form in front of you? Do you even have original photo of Lord Krishna? And if you don't have, it's all imaginations of artists. You know, whenever I used to think of Lord Krishna in my earlier days, I would think that, Mahabharat actor, what's his name? Huh? Nitish Bhardwaj will come to my meditation. When I think of Lord Krishna, and there I see Nitin Bhardwaj and chariot preaching Arjun. And oh wow, I saw Lord Krishna, but did you really saw Lord Krishna or Nitin Bhardwaj? And whenever we see Krishna or Lord Shiva or Lord Rama or Lord Hanuman, we are seeing images and imaginations. How can you realize them from imaginations when they could not realize it even with the original form? So our prayer should be, Lord, it's not that I don't believe in you or I believe in you, whatever, I like to feel your presence. I like to realize you the way you are, not based on these films and not based on my father and mother's suggestions or not based on the books, but direct experience in my heart. And heartfulness way, practice is absolutely neutral. It does not say believe God like this or believe God like that or don't. Nothing of that sort. Have a totally open approach towards this experience. Don't even depend on books and say Swami Vivekananda experienced this or Paramahansa experienced that or Yogananda experienced this way. No, don't depend on others' experience because we all are unique beings. We all will feel experience differently. Even when I transmit, everyone will experience the transmission in a different way. Because we all are different. God has created all of us in a very special way. So I cannot copy and paste someone's experience. It has to be my unique experience. But one has to be neutral first. God, I don't even know if you are there. And if you are there, I'm willing to believe and experience your presence. Open up your heart. Dil khol ke bolo. Cry if you have to. If that pain is so much that you cannot live without that experience, cry your heart out to God and say, God, please help me. And see what happens to you next. So I wish you a very quiet moment, go inward and experience it yourself.